Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming back to the Reserves Act Hearings Panel proposed ground lease at Puna Sports Hub for Netsal Centre. Thank you for coming in live streamed as well. And the reason why we adjourned on Wednesday was that the questions that were raised by the submitters, both verbal and written, raised some very important questions and some very good questions for the panel members, who asked a series of questions of staff to allow staff time to ascertain those and get those answers to those questions. We've just needed a bit of time. We now have those. There may be further questions raised from those, but I would now like to reintroduce my fellow panel members. Councillor Anne Galloway and Councillor Melanie Coker, for those who weren't here on Wednesday. My name's Councillor Tim Scandred and I'm chairing the hearings panel. And now I would like to invite staff to answer the questions that were raised on the following Wednesday's adjournment.
Thank you, Councillor Scandred. I'll take the opportunity just to introduce also who's in the room. And we have a couple of staff members online listening in as well. So to my left we have Robert O'Connor from our legal team, who can answer any further questions around legal matters. David Bailey from the Sport and Rec team, and he's here to answer any queries regarding the partnership arrangements with the existing operators at Ngāpunawa. We've got Tessa Zant from our engagement team. Sorry, I managed to close the memo, so please bear with me for 1 second.
And welcome to all staff, and thank you for your time.
Make sure I've got, there it is. Would you like me to read each question and
actually, that would be helpful. Yes, so it's, okay. Thank you very much.
Or is it? I'm not sure. Is it possible to put the memo on the screen? Okay. Okay. So I'll read the questions and the answers. The first question is: Are we able to get some wording from the legal team that the hearings panel could use in a resolution to council regarding the lease and asking Netsal to engage work with the Ngāpunawa partnership members? The response was yes. The lease can contain a clause requiring Netsal during the lease term to engage in a collaborative and partnering way with the other sporting bodies that occupy Ngāpunawa. Are there any further questions in that?
Any further? Yeah. Thank you.
The second question, is the hearings panel able to include a resolution to council about prioritising development of Wigham Road as an official road and access way to Ngāpunawa, including indicating the years we would like to see this work underway? Staff had indicated that this will be put up as a priority bid for the annual plan and long-term plan. The staff response is yes, the hearings panel could do this. I presume that it wouldn't take the form of a condition of approval of the lease, but would stand as a separate resolution.
Thank you. So, any further questions on that? Thank you.
The third question, is the hearings panel able to include a resolution to council about requesting that trucks relating to construction are expected to use alternative entrances to Ngāpunawa, such as Wigham Road and McMahon Drive, and not using Augustine Drive unless absolutely necessary? This would also include excluding access via Curlitz Road and travelling through the AMP grounds. This is especially important as a key concern for the riding for the disabled. The response, staff response, yes, this could go in the lease if that was thought necessary.
Any further questions on that, panel members?
Excuse me.
Thank you.
apologies, this next question's, it may even be 2 questions, but
Yeah.
it's quite long.
Yep.
So I'll do my best.
Thank you very much.
Question 4. Is the hearings panel able to get some more clarity about the measures in a traffic management plan? I would like reassurance that this will include mitigating the amount of parking on residential streets and encouraging parking within the Ngā grounds itself, even if that is on the community fields. Some potential specifics would actually be very helpful. We would like to word along the lines that council, working with the AMP show and local residents associations and all other stakeholders, to produce an integrated traffic management plan and parking plan, which would encompass both internal traffic and parking issues within Ngā and the surrounding residential streets. So the response is, the panel can include a resolution requiring staff to develop a comprehensive traffic management plan with input from the existing operational parties within Ngā that includes considerations of questions 4 and 5. The next question, is also about that. And specifically request, if need to, I haven't put this in the written response, consultation with the surrounding neighbourhood. There would be nothing to stop us doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions on that? No?
I think that was a very, if you don't mind me commenting, it was a very good question. I made reference to having had conversations with Mr. Bone from
Yes.
Canterbury Agricultural Pastoral Association, but of course there are many stakeholders that would need to have their input as well,
Yeah.
including the residents.
Thank you.
The next question was regarding traffic calming on Augustine Drive, and wanting to check, was this just within the area of Ngā, and if so, could these be extended into the residential area? And I see all 3 of you must have asked the same questions in a different way.
Yes.
Obviously that's a hot topic. Yeah, that was my reference to the previous response, where the surrounding neighbourhood needs to be, and how that's utilised, needs to be a key consideration of that traffic management plan. And just to reiterate, not just for big events, but every day is the intent. If, and again, to reiterate, whether or not this hearings panel makes a decision in favour of a lease or otherwise, I think it's clear from the feedback we've had, particularly at the session on the 17th of March, that it's required anyway, that we need to articulate with surrounding residents how we're going to manage traffic.
And thank you
since
very
Ngā has opened.
And thank you very much for that and recognising that from this process. Thank you.
Question 6. Are the panel able to include a resolution to council that requests that the car park lighting is on a timer or motion sensor? And further to that, can we get confirmation that all external lighting for both parking and the building would be on a timer as other lighting in Ngā Can this be confirmed? And the answer is yes, this can be included in the lease.
Thank you.
Question 7, can we word somehow that we would want confirmation that Netsal will be part of the overall family of sporting bodies that make up Ngā or involved in Ngā my written response was just see the response to question 1, because it's essentially the same, yes.
Yes, fine. Thank you. Any questions on that? No, thank you.
Okay. Moving on to question 8. The key issue is the pressure on local residents and the increase of traffic and lack of infrastructure to support the increase of traffic pressure. We need assurance that the development of Wigram Road entrance is a priority. And it goes on to say, and could the Wigram Road entrance be promoted once established, promoted and seen as the main entrance to Ngā the written response is yes, once complete. The panel can pass that resolution that we report back to council. So this, I guess this is different to the responses I gave earlier, where we're intending to, but this is a very explicit resolution. You can resolve that we need to report back to council. Sorry, I'll just start that again. The panel could pass a resolution that staff report back to council on the options for development of an additional entrance to Ngā Punawai for inclusion in the draft 2021 to 31 long-term plan. And there's nothing to stop council seeking a desire that that become the main and primary entrance. What I would say though is that we can certainly put that in the scope of the traffic management plan, but we need to make sure that all of the stakeholders would be comfortable with that, because of course it traverses right through the park, including areas that there are sometimes stock and horses. So I think everyone would agree that that would be a positive move, but I don't think we can guarantee right now, without completing that traffic management plan, that we should call it the main entrance.
Absolutely, and I totally get that. That's why you're proposing to do an full integrated traffic and parking management plan, and so for us to dictate that prior to that starting would be wrong. So
yeah, no, we can certainly ensure in the scope of work that it is a strong preference for council.
Yes,
and take it from there. I think it sounds sensible too. Sorry, I'm shooting from the cuff a little bit here, but it is such a substantive and significant matter for the park and its future that we would bring that traffic management plan back for endorsement from the relevant council committee. I think would be a sensible move, because it is a metropolitan facility.
and as you've stated, to take the pressure off the current entrances for the future development and the future of Ngā Punawai is essential, as we've heard from the submitters. Thank you.
And noting, of course, that the current resource consent requires this entrance to be developed by no later than 2028, or the resource consent will be breached.
Yep. Thank you. Any questions on that? No? Thank you.
Where did I get to? That was
number 9, the DC.
Number 9, thank you. The question. There are a lot of DCs, which I guess for those listening in, development contributions, collected from the subdivision developments in this area. Oh, sorry, I'll start again. There are a lot of DCs in Wigram and the surrounding areas generated, which should be used to support the above mitigations mentioned. Can this be looked into? So I guess essentially the question is, can DCs be utilised to fund any capital investment? So the straight answer is yes, and that is the normal process. But the development this is from Russell Wedge, who's listening in, so if you have further questions. Sorry, we did get Russell on the line, didn't we? Yeah. The development contributions collected from subdivision developments in this area are collected on a citywide catchment basis. So that's common for the whole city.
Yeah.
And used to fund growth components of projects across the city within the catchments. The DCs collected from the subdivisions are not identified as coming from one particular area or targeted to be used in the area they were collected, such as the Wigram area. So again, that's just re-emphasising that they're collected as a whole across the city and applied where the growth demand is. Any projects in Ngā Punawai will need to be assessed against the policy as to their eligibility for partial funding from DCs. Now, typically, a project like this where you are investing in infrastructure to support growth naturally would fit that policy. But there is a policy that we need to check this against. Additional car parking and additional entrances is being driven out of a growth demand, so it's highly likely.
And thank you very much for explaining that, and I thought it was important too, because it was mentioned by a number of submitters about the development in the area and the DCs that were gained by the council from those developments. But just to explain that DCs aren't section by section, they are put in a pot and for the citywide. Melanie? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Public transport, next question, question 10. public transport, can discussions with ECAN start as public transport would be vital to reduce the pressure on traffic and the environment as a sporting hub, such as this should be seen in the same light as a key activity area. The response is this will be done as a component of the comprehensive traffic management plan development. Just to point out though, of course, ECAN, not council, are the decision makers for bus routes. So we can't guarantee that it would be added.
Yeah.
But certainly we'll be trying our best to make sure that there's careful consideration by ECAN that even if it's not a daily route, that there is a route that can support weekend activities wherever possible.
Thank you. Any further?
Next question, question 11.
Yep.
Could we have an update on the Haytons Road, Wigram Road intersection upgrade, please? So the Wigram Road, Haytons Road intersection is to be upgraded. The Haytons Road, Wigram Road intersection is in detailed design in terms of where it's at in its current form. And construction is expected to start in late 2020, early 21. I go on to say the Parks and Transport units will collaborate on a solution to ensure that the best outcome is achieved should the Wigram Road entrance to Ngāpunawai be funded in the LTP as discussed in the hearing. You may have further questions about what is that work, and I have just received an email that has provided me with some designs. They're very technical looking. I'm not sure whether you want me to try and share these.
I think what we were after and what those that were submitting were just an assurance that that was on the cards. And obviously that's been given. That is. Are you both happy with that?
Yeah, it is a funded project.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can't, as we're a hearings panel, we can't control the annual plan or long-term plan, but there is an assurance that it is moving forward, so that's what we were after. So are you guys happy? Okay.
I will just add that the primary driver seems to be improving pedestrian access with pedestrian, they're not pedestrian crossings, the island scenarios.
Yeah.
Sorry, not very technical on driving stuff.
No. Yeah, no, but it's answered.
And a shared pathway, which is for pedestrians and cyclists.
Yep, thank you. Excellent.
So I'll just get back to the memo. There's a question that is, am I able to ask additional questions of Netsal to understand why finding a site in partnership with the AMP Association didn't work? The panel would need to agree to invite Netsal back for further questions if you have more questions in that area. Yep. That's not really for staff to try to respond to.
And from the chair, I'm satisfied that I certainly don't feel I need to. And
well, my understanding is that if we invite Netsal back, we also need to invite all the others along to talk as well.
Yeah,
and I think to be fair, so I'm happy with that answer. Thank you.
Yeah, and Mel, are you okay with that? Okay, thank you. And the question 13.
Question 13. Has Council explored with AMP Association all options for this facility on the land surrounding the Ngāpunawai lease by them? So my response is discussions on options between Netsal and Kappa occurred between those two parties. Yes. Council was not involved other than in terms of technical support. So when Netsal first approached Council about that, about the entire Canterbury Agricultural Park and Ngāpunawai site, they were effectively handed over to Kappa, who have, even though it's only for a month, they have legal entitlement to that land. So they were left to negotiate between those two parties.
Yep, thank you. Are you any further questions on? No, thank you.
Question 14. If we wanted to investigate other options, what implications would this have for Council and Netsal? So my response is no implications for council other than additional costs to complete that work and then complete another public notification process, so primarily staff costs. In terms of Netsal, so I checked in with Netsal and passed this question on for a response. So Netsal have come back and confirmed with their benefactor that the project would not proceed should there be any further delay. So if we were to go into an investigation process, obviously that would generate delay. If that position was to change and they were willing to investigate other options, Netsal's would be exposed to additional survey and geotechnical costs and potentially costs associated to a modified or new resource consent. So that would be the implications.
Thank you. I'll answer 15, but are there any questions on 14? No? Thank you. And just to those submitters listening in, the panel is going to make a recommendation one way or the other to council. It is the final decision is council's, so they can either accept and agree with the recommendation from the panel, they can disagree with the recommendation from the panel, or they can send the panel back to do further work on issues that they feel we haven't looked into more thoroughly enough. So that is my understanding. Is that correct? Is it? So I'm now going to ask my fellow panel members, were there any further questions raised or issues raised with staff or that you'd like to?
Actually, I do have one. Thanks, Andrew. I'm just thinking the last question about the further work that would have to be done if the site wasn't used. Would that have to be funded by Netsal itself, the geo work and that sort of thing?
We don't. Council doesn't cost recover costs associated to Reserves Act applications like they do for resource consent situations. However, should a new resource consent be required, yes, they would have to bear those costs, and they also have to bear the costs of the planning and surveying and geotechnical investigation work that they would need to do prior to applying to council to say, you know, could we site a building here? So that's essentially what has happened to date. So if we were to go through that process again, yes, they need to do that again.
Mel, do you have any further questions for staff?
No, I haven't got any further questions. I think we got some pretty good answers overnight. Thank you.
So Anne, anything further? No, look, thank you very much for the questions coming back to us. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move from the chair that that I am in support of the officer's recommendation as per the officer's report. And I'll take the officer's recommendations as read because they've been in the public document for some time, but with the following conditions. And then I will call for a seconder and we'll move forward. So the following conditions with point 3, authorise the property consultancy manager to administer, negotiate and conclude the terms and conditions of the lease, including the following. Requests that the lease contains a clause requesting Netsal during the lease term to engage in a collaborative and partnering way with other sporting bodies that occupy Ngāi also requests that the lease contains a clause requesting that trucks relating to the construction are expected to use alternative entrances to Ngāi such as Wigram Road and McMahon Drive, and not use Augustine Drive or Curlitz Road unless absolutely necessary. Requests that the lease conditions clause of all external lighting for both parking and the building to be on a timer as is other lighting in Ngāi which automatically turns off at 10 p.m. and specifically to traffic, parking and travel. Requests staff to develop a comprehensive traffic management plan with input from existing operational parties within Ngāi, including mitigating the amount of parking on residential streets and encouraging parking with within Ngāi grounds itself, such as use of the community fields, both internal traffic and parking issues within Ngāi and surrounding residential streets. Requests staff to consider options for traffic calming measures on surrounding residential streets and leading to the Ngāi and report back to the Hallsville, Hornby, Riccarton Community Board for consideration. Request staff to investigate the future of a shared cycleway from Curlitz Road to Ngāi. Request staff to work with Environmental Canterbury on options for future travel plans for public transport to and from Ngāi. Specifically with entry and exits, request staff to report back to the council on options for the development of an additional entrance at Ngāi for the inclusion in the draft 2021-2031 long-term plan, noting that the primary concern of the majority of the submitters related to the impact on the existing entrance of Augustine Drive. Specifically with amenity, requests staff to investigate possible options to soften the impact of the building on the adjoining neighbours. That the hearings panel recommends.
No.
Oh, so I'll do it. Right. Sorry. Right. And I'm moving that. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you very much. And so I'll put that. Do you have any final comments with regards to this?
Yeah, I'll just say that I've found this quite a tricky hearing, actually, because there's a lot of competing interests, shall we say, and it's very close to residential streets, and there is going to be a lot of development, and traffic is a big issue in particular. So I think we had to put a lot of thought into this. I'm glad that we had our adjournment, and thank Tim for working on our resolutions as well, and staff for their answers.
Anne?
Well, I'd like to thank staff for the work that's been done on this, on all the answers to the questions behind the scenes, Sam and Megan, and this is a very busy time in council, so we really appreciate the work that you've done. Also want to acknowledge the submitters and my fellow panel members and all those in the community who are interested in listening in. I'm really appreciative of the work that has been done to address the issues around traffic, around the entrances, the Haytons Road work. The Wigram Road entrance particularly has been one that has been spoken about to me by lots of residents as a possibility. It's exciting to see that this will be underway, hopefully. I'm also pleased to see the cycleway access and those sorts of things coming in here. And so I'm really I'm sure that people listening in are very comforted by that. But unfortunately, I won't be in support of the recommendation today. And the reason is because I don't believe that Council has given enough attention to investigating other sites for this facility within the Ngāi vicinity. I'm really concerned about the effects of the traffic congestion and the increase in traffic on this community and the areas. We already have huge issues with Aidenfield Drive and the excess traffic along there. Those roads were never built for this amount of congestion or traffic. And even though I know that the Wigram Road entranceway is going to be seriously considered, I still believe that the effect on this community will be more than less than minor. So for those reasons, I will not be in support today of the recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I put this to the vote, I just want to thank those submitters who wrote in and who came through the live streaming, and especially those with the live streaming. It's always been a bit of a difficult time with regards to the COVID-19 situation that we're in. So a special thank you to you for taking the time. I want to thank officers, and especially for coming back to us with the answers to those questions and the work that you've taken on those, and to our Secretariat, thank you very much. I will now put it to the vote. All those in favour, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those against? No. I will put that recommend.
No.
So I'll put that recommends passed to Council. Thank you very much for your time. And I'll now adjourn the meeting. Close the meeting.